Okay, hello everyone again. It's time for us to start. As usual, let's start with a quick opening prayer. Just asking for inspiration and guidance from the benefactors so that we can make the most of this study, of this unique opportunity to find out, to discover the spiritual world, our homeland, while here in the physical one, so that we can guide our lives and the lives of those around us, thinking of the future, where our treasure is. So, with that permission, we start our study today. So be it. Let me share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Can you all see it? Yeah. Right. So last time we stopped here, chapter 17, and we were talking about the development of mediums. So let me start reading, and then we discuss as we go along. When we want to call certain spirits, it is essential that we first address those whom we know to be good and attuned to us, and who might have a reason to answer, such as relatives and friends. Thus, we might make an invocation along these lines. In the name of Almighty God, I pray that the spirit of a name will you communicate with me? Or I pray to Almighty God to allow the spirit of so and so to communicate with me. Or other words to that effect. Also, the first questions must be formulated in a way that the answers may be given as simply yes or no. For example, are you here? Do you wish to answer? Can you make me right? Etc. Later on, this precaution will be unnecessary. In the beginning, however, it is a means of establishing a relationship. The essential thing is that the question not be useless, that is, not refer to private matters, and especially that it express a benevolent and sympathetic sentiment toward the spirit to whom it is addressed. So there is a special chapter on evocations. And it's very interesting to see that what is being explained here is basically talking about the very first steps when we start to establish a mediumship group, because as has been said here, these questions or these evocations directed to certain spirits, they are at the beginning. In the beginning, however, it is a means of establishing a relationship. So we establish a relationship, and then as the work progresses, as the group starts to get, tuned, we then can, skip this step of making special evocations. Of course, prayer, asking for the assistance of our guardian angels and those spirits responsible for the spiritual work that is done in that particular spirit is sent in that particular group. I think it is important. But here, all care is taken, especially regarding to those who are starting in the mediumship work. Sandra? I see your
Yes, so because I
hand
wasn't
raised.
here last Saturday, sorry if my question is not relevant, but at the beginning of this paragraph, when it
Yeah.
says we can invoke, we can call, for example, relatives and friends. So my question is, for example, my father and my mother. So that can you explain about this quickly to me, please?
Yes, we should remember that, you know, at Kardec's time, things were done. There's Sandra. Oh, still here. Okay, it changed. I couldn't see you. At Kardec's time, you know, things were done slightly different than we do today. Because we know that, you know, relatives and friends, they may not be, you know, in a position, in a condition to do the work. We shouldn't forget, you know, let's imagine ourselves. I die today. Am I able to start, you know, doing things in a special mediumship group? What I see here is people used to do, and you see how careful Kardec has been here, saying that, you know, questions should be relevant questions. You should show respect for the spirits you were calling upon. So people used to do all sorts of things, especially, you know, in terms of entertainment and so on, and perhaps submit the spirits to certain situations. And when you talk to familiar spirits, to, you know, people, you know, you establish a different kind of relationship where there is respect for that. So I see that if you are talking to the unknown, until, you know, those days were very much unknown to most people, you have to establish what level of communication is a serious one. You wouldn't make fun of a relative, of someone, you know, dear to you. So the kind of relationship that we should have with those we call upon to assist us in our group is a kind that we have in a family group in this sense. That's what I see. Because sometimes we know people we know very dear to us, they return to spirit. Sometimes, you know, it takes them a certain amount of time for them to be well, for them to be actually in conditions. Not that they are evil, not that they go to, you know, dark zones or whatever, but we know we need sometimes, you know, time for us to recover from the transition, and we can evoke them directly straight away. So what Kardec is trying to tell us here is that it is important for us to have a serious meeting, you know, even showing a kind of a relationship that we should have as a group, as if it was a family, and also call upon the spirits that we know are spirits, serious ones, and hoping they will come to assist us in the work. For instance, it's very common in Brazil to give names of very how active spiritists and spiritist center so and so. It's natural that we ask for assistance and help from that inner spirit when you start your work. And it is, you know, natural that you do that. But in case, as you asked, you know, family members, well, they may come, they may not come. It very much depends. And as I said to you, what I see here is that you should establish, you know, a work, or start your work at the beginning, establishing a relationship with spirits that you know are good spirits, or spirits that are familiar to you. Remember, Kardec used to have these meetings, you know, in houses. In those days, we see, you know, the spirit came through, you know, that usually young ladies used to, you know, to have a mediumship that, you know, was, gave a great contribution to Kardec's work. And that was done in a small group. That was done in, you know, homes, different from what we have today. And the other thing I see is that we can start a job or can start a work in our house. But as the work becomes important, as we want to take the work, to a different level, we go somewhere else. And then it's like, it's the same with our profession. What do? We start doing things at home, and as it grows, where do we go? Well, we rent a place and we move there. And I think, we went through, in Kardec's time, we went through a change from seeing the unknown, the occult, and turning that into a familiar meeting with a serious purpose of helping and not having fun. Pablo?
Yeah, I just thinking about like nowadays, because we know there are we've been debating about this in the past few weeks, where you should always have a noble motive to be talking to spirits. It shouldn't be frivolous. So when I see like, oh, evocation, like I know there are spiritist centers that have sessions that are dedicated to like for people that come seeking for news from their loved ones, like moms that lost their children and everything. So there is a noble motive because they want to have some kind of comfort, but not just like frivolous questions, just like, oh, how are you, or I don't know, asking about like who's going to win the lottery or things like that. Whilst we know that are other sessions that are solely dedicated to the aid of suffering spirits. So we don't need to name them, and we don't need to ask for any specific spirit to come. We just just need to be open to receive the ones that are in need. So we don't even need to ask them their names. So yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Pablo. Yeah, it makes me think also that, if we have, if we call upon a well-known spirit, enlightened spirits, to assist us in the mediumship meeting, to do frivolous things, who do you think will come to that meeting? Perhaps someone who will even pretend to be that spirit. On the other hand, if I'm engaged in a very serious charitable work and I call upon certain spirit, or I ask in general for assistance of good spirits, certainly good spirits will come. Perhaps not that one, that particular one, but another one will come in his name, we could see, not pretending to be him or her, because sometimes for them names are not really important, but the work, the level of assistance they can give, embracing us in their light, inspiring us. So the work, the intention is more important than names. We know that. We can be fooled if we think that we are constantly being assisted by that spirit or these other famous spirits for frivolous things. I don't know if Charles wants to say something. Well, Charles has always something very interesting to.
Yeah, so far no comment, nothing to add. It's good.
Sorry, Charles. Do you know if there was any spiritist meeting in the format that we know today at Kardec's time? In center, I mean, or did he start anything in the format that we know today?
I think today it has evolved a little bit, particularly in Brazil, but I would say that the meetings we had at Kardec's time and the other groups like the Group Delan and whatsoever are quite similar to the ones we have today, with the exception that at that time they did not have, how to say, so many restrictions as we have today, for instance, with regards to moving tables or things like that, which was considered as some say normal. whilst today it's a little bit banned in some way. And they also used more evocations as we are using today.
Okay, thanks, Jens. Just one thing before we go on. Charles mentioned evocation again. Yeah, we shouldn't forget that for special cases and treatments, and I would include in this case obsession. Sometimes, you know, it's necessary actually to work directly with certain spirits, you know, and that's when, you know, you direct the evocation to this and that spirit. But this is a very specialized type of work where you need to work in a certain case and with the spirits that are involved in that particular case. So I see two hands, Sandra and then Elsa Lee.
Okay, mine is a quick, just to clarify, Munir. So you said,
Yeah.
for example, to invoke a relative, yes, or maybe a friend. Is it safe to do this alone at home, or should be with a group of, you know, mediums to support in terms of to give us protection, to be more secure?
So what's the purpose of doing an evocation of a relative alone, you know, at home? You can always mentally connect to that relative, send good thoughts, ask for inspiration if it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, you know, I see this evocation as something that you sit down with a certain purpose, and then you evoke a certain spirit to assist you in that task. Different from, oh, I don't know what to do in this case. What shall I do? I very much like my mother, my deceased mother, helped me with that and inspired me and whatever. So we should see, you know, establish what level is that. So I sit down to, you know, to practice mediumship, you know, writing or whatever on my own, and I call my mother, for instance. It's different from getting inspiration because we're constantly connected, if we want, mentally connected to, yes. But this is slightly different because there isn't, you know, this is not a full process of mediumship communication. We shouldn't forget, as spirits, we can communicate all the time, establish mental link with spirits. But for the mediumistic manifestation, we need a different level of interaction between their spirits and so on. So it's very specific. And we shouldn't forget the purpose. The purpose of everything that I do. Oh, Mom, inspire me to win the lottery. Oh, Mom, you know, inspire me to whatever, you know. So, but you can always, we shouldn't forget, even in these things, when we think of a relative who could inspire us, not mediumship work, you know, mediumistic work, but to inspire us, they can always inspire us to see the right side of things, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, don't rely so much on these expectations of winning the lottery. Find a job, you know, this sort of thing.
It's true. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Elsa Lee?
Hey, hi, good morning to everybody. I have a question about this. You said, Muni,
Yeah.
I think we spiritists, we usually we don't usually involve be your invocation home, especially alone. Well, I think you would in the spiritual center or when a group and online is this, but not alone. So this is I learned. So, but you said to be an spiritual guide, I would like to know how can I do this thing, some this question, this situation I am now, and because and then not think more about, not only think about the come intuition, the comment for me suddenly come help. But not in a spirit say, oh, Elsie, do so do. No. They don't do it. But what I will do, so to maybe ring a team to one persons, and okay, maybe she would like help me how is better. So in this way, not in the spirit to come now this can do so here, this so for this way, do it. This is only I think it's not on this could happen. That was not good to you, I think. Maya, I would like to ask now about another thing. It's about mediunity too, but I was, for example, I was 2 weeks ago, I awake a bit in the morning because I usually wake up and come up around 7:30. So, but it's so good here. So a little bit. Can think at your heart. I know I heard almost my side, but in my head. Now you are already awake. Come up. So it's there's a masculine because it was his voice was not feminine. It was masculine, and therefore they were not a female, and it was firm, good, firm, calm, out sometime. And I hope from saying it because you maybe is my guide because it's not usually for me. It's not usually. And I ask you, is can happen, and that one spirit is do this inside of you had very, very clear, very and good sound, not noise sound, all clear and interesting. I never forgot this because it wasn't like a father, because it wasn't for too height. It was calm, but decided, firm. So,
Yeah,
and I would
two
like
things.
no.
Yeah, two things, Elsie. First, we are always surrounded by spirits. Full stop. And second, if we have mediumship, it's not there is no switch. It doesn't come with a switch that I'm a medium. I got now, and I'm not a medium now. I'm a medium now. I'm not a medium now. But what we're talking here is about mediumship work. When you sit down with the purpose of establishing a contact for a certain reason, and this should we should learn, and that's what we're doing here. We should learn what we should do, what we shouldn't do, in order not to be punished, or in order to do a good job, to do it correctly. And until Kardec's time, there wasn't such a thing as, you should be careful with this, you should pay attention to that. This is what we advise you to do, not we impose, or now you say this is the only recipe for a successful mediumship meeting. No. But based in reason, Kardec is wonderful in that. It's just saying, what are the procedures when you want to have a very effective mediumship meeting. But remember, all the time we have, especially those who have, mediumship in a more, I would say, open state, 24/7. There's no switch. So, it's almost inevitable to have these experiences. But here we are talking more specifically about the gathering for this purpose, So not alone. So, the group, but not, we can say the more the better in this case. No, for mediumship group, it has to be harmonious. You have to be in a very solid group in this sense, because you need, you need fluidic conditions, you need harmony, you need to establish this cohesion of the group to be effective. Not that the worst will come if the group is, starting and people are not getting along very well, or they haven't established this connection with one another. And no, but the more you get to that point, the better. The more effective is going to be your work.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, I think one thing regarding a relative or a close friend, I think when somebody close to us has just passed over, we're very concerned about them. And like my stepdad, who was like a father to me, when he passed over, I prayed for him and just offered to give some healing, if he needed some healing, because he died of cancer. And he asked me to give him some healing, and so I gave him some like Reiki, spiritual healing. And but I then thought I saw the time and I thought I better go and have a shower because I have people coming. So I sort of said, okay, got to stop for a bit. And he said, is that all? Is that all? Like, come on. And I thought, that was just like him. And I told my mom later, I said, yeah, that's Pete, you know what I mean? Because he would be like that, But then I gave him some more later when I could, give him an hour, of healing, and, he appreciated that. So I think it's just knowing they're still, real, and it's not like they're not inaccessible, and we can connect with them, but it's doing it in a sensitive way. You can sense it as you send prayers to them. Are they there with you, especially after they've just passed away? Because they may be a bit disoriented, especially as Pete knew I was a medium. It made sense that he would come to me, to want to be in my presence, because I can reassure him. And I got a message from him, which I showed my mom, and she said, yeah, that's 100% Pete, his sense of humor and everything. So I think it's just, it's really just sending the prayers and reassuring them and saying, I'm here, the connection is not broken. I'm always here. And that can be very reassuring for them to know there's, a light wherever they are, you're there.
Yeah.
And, rather than, in this day and age, I don't think we need to really evoke personally, a relative in that way, because we have the mediumship groups where they may want to come anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we should be careful, because especially here in the medium's book, there's a guide. They don't say you can't do that, or they don't say you must do that. No, they always tell you, from experience and from, common sense, the way to do things. And yes, our loved ones, some people, they say you shouldn't pray for your loved ones or for a deceased person, when you are at home. And then it's always thought, oh, how come? No, because you can attract them and this and that. But then I remember one of the spiritist books where this person was in the spiritual world in a room recovering from, the transition. And there was a screen, like a TV. And every now and then, the face of a person would flash there, a loved one would flash. And then this spirit asked, the one in charge, what's going on? And he said, oh, he's sending you love. He's thinking of you and sending you love. So every time this person does that, you see this flash, on the screen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it isn't cut and dry, as that. And also we should remember that as a group, as groups, mediumship groups may have specific purposes. A group or a medium may receive message from young kids who return to the spiritual world, as a consolation for their mothers. Chico Xavier used to do that, special days. He used to go there and receive, So it was a very specific meeting with a very specific purpose, but everything has to be noble. Everything has to be, you know, for a good purpose. This is, I think, the best safeguard, you know, do with good intention. And if we evoke, you know, Saint Francis of Assisi, if he will come or not, if he can come, he'll certainly listen to your prayers, depending on your purpose, of course, and he will send an envoy, you know, to do the job in his name. And it's not the name that is important, but, you know, so this is, you know, and what Kardec is giving us here is a north, you know, it's a way to guide ourselves in doing things. Because can you imagine that those days, wherever you went, there was something happening, as Charles mentioned, the turning tables and, you know, the different types of manifestations. And what is, you know, what's the correct way to do things? And Kardec was just, you know, sifting things through and saying, well, the essence is here. This is, you know, it's very good. Elsie, your hand is still raised.
For a short, I
Sure.
said, luck for you, Saul, because it was you communicate with your father, and that was only in the beginning when my father passed away many years ago. I was sad because I couldn't rest to Brazilian because in my works it was too much people I took care that time, and I worked to state, and you know, to do something you must have many of bureaucracy, and I couldn't. And my sister, yes, it was good for her, but I think about 1 month. He came to me, my father. I saw only post, only here, so, and not only this, and he said, by mind, oh, my daughter, no, you must have me. You must have remember me in your hearts. This is it. It's important. So only I said, Papa, I said, Papa, but I wasn't ready. So it was light, but he came and saw again. And I said, Papa, I didn't have time, so I disappeared, I vanished. But I must say too, it's not my father. It's this time, 2-3 weeks ago, nay, like father, but no, it wasn't my father, because the voices was all on another voice. Only this.
Really brings up good memories. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we move on then? I've highlighted the word here. A more important guideline to observe than the manner of making the appeal is calmness and meditation. Look, Kardec is emphasizing here, it's a guideline, and there's something more important, you know. You may work in this way or that way, according to what he just said, but calmness and meditation combined with an ardent desire and a firm will to succeed. By will, we do not mean an ephemeral and consistent desire, allowing ourselves allowing ourselves at any moment to be interrupted by other matters, but a serious and persevering determination sustained with firmness and without impatience or anxiousness. So this is very important sometimes, especially nowadays, you know, we think of something, oh, I need to do that, and you want to do it immediately. You get anxious because things apparently are not, you know, moving forward. And so we shouldn't forget that, especially in this work, it is important that we rely on good spirits. So they are the ones in the mediumship group, they are the ones conducting everything. We are just the tip of the iceberg, you know, but everything is prepared by them. And if we are serious in our intentions, we will join the team. We'll be part of the work, and we'll be more effective workers. If we don't, we'll give them, you know, more work to do with us now, to help us, you know, to get at the minimum level that we can be useful in this greater context of the meeting. So impatience and anxiousness would never, ever help. And also meditation here. We should, you know, because there is meditation that we do in order to reach a certain level of awareness or whatever. It's not this type of meditation. The type of meditation that is being mentioned here is the meditation where you concentrate on the aim of your work, and then you keep your mind, you know, focused on something that, you know, which is the purpose of the meeting, the purpose of the group, because we know there are courses of meditation, and it is a different type of meditation. So what they say here, this meditation is actually a controlled awareness, a controlled state of mind, where you keep, you know, all the matters away. Sometimes it's good when we are reminded to leave outside the room, the mediumship, you know, the room you're going to do the mediumship work, to leave the problems. When we finish the work, we go out, we pick them up again. If we don't, they will come after us, that's for sure. But leave any other problem outside and allow us to have this time, half an hour, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, to concentrate, to dedicate ourselves fully to the work. Charles?
Yes, Munir, just a little remark. The translation to meditation may not be 100% correct in Francais. In French, it's written recueillement, which is recolhimento in Portuguese, which does not mean exactly meditation.
Meditation, yes. When you go inside yourself, kind of introspection, or, you know, you look inside and...
yes, or recueillement means you stay calm and silent, and meditation goes a little bit beyond the recueillement, you know.
Yes, you go after something in meditation. You try to reach certain levels
with
of
visualization or whatever, which in recueillement you don't need. You just cool the thoughts down somehow, or calm the thoughts.
Yeah. Thanks, Charles. Wonderful. It's good to have you checking the French.
You're welcome.
Because, you know, sometimes translations, you know, may induce us to slightly different perception of things. So meditation is aided by solitude, silence, in the avoidance of anything that could cause a distraction. Thus, there is nothing more to it except this. Renew the attempt every day for 10 or 15 minutes at the most each time, for 15 days, a month, 2 months, more if needed. We know of mediums who only began to display their abilities after 6 months of practice, whereas others began to write correctly from the start. This reminds me of, you know, I started actually to get closer to mediumship when I was young. I joined this youth group, and it was very interesting because since day one, we would have a study. It was actually a compilation of the medium's book, especially prepared for beginners. And after that, we will have 20 minutes, then, you know, half an hour of practice, where, you know, we were allowed to express what we were feeling, what we were perceiving of the environment, and so on. And that was really wonderful. And we see some people who are anxious because they want to see things immediately. They want to write, get a message, you know, see their hands moving in an, you know, uncontrolled way to get, you know, a written message or whatever. And for most of us, it isn't like that. For most of us, it takes, sometimes it needs, perseverance, dedication. So that's why this piece of advice from Kardec is so important, not to be anxious. Oh, but we started together. We went, to this group together for the first time. And, he or she is receiving messages, seeing spirits and so on and so forth. And I'm here, I can't feel anything, I can't see anything. Well, don't be anxious. Sandra?
Yes, I was going to comment exactly what they said here about this calmness. Yes, it's not only for writing, yeah, because the topic here, I understood now, is for writing mentorship. But I think this moment, this calmness is for every time, for everything we do, no?
Yes, everything. And sometimes it happens, someone comes showing signs of a certain type of mediumship, and all of a sudden it changes. So we don't know. As I said, when we are there in a group with good intention, for good, good reason, and we do our best, the benefactors will know what, we can do, what we cannot do at that particular moment. They'll help us with that. What is, prepared for us, it's ours, So no reason to be anxious or anything. Oh, but I wanted to help and, seeing suffering spirits so I could. Well, there are so many ways to help. There's not just one way to help. Why is it so important to have this, very clear and strong manifestation, whereas we could be someone helping to keep the ambient, calm and, supporting the mediums, the ones who have, mediumship ready to, be used. So we should be patient and not let anxiety be with us. So common, sometimes people start expecting to see clear signs of changes in a few meetings, and all of a sudden they say, oh, I've been here for 3 months and, it hasn't changed at all. No, it's not for me. And there's always something, perhaps what the person is expecting, is not for him or for her, but there are many other things that can be done, and the person will miss an opportunity to do something that can be good and can be useful as well. Okay. So 205. In order to avoid futile attempts, one could question a serious and high-ordered spirit through another medium. However, it is worthwhile to remember that when we propose a question to spirits to find out whether or not we possess mediumship, they almost always answer in the affirmative, which nevertheless does not mean that there will not be many unfruitful attempts. This may easily be explained. If a generalized question is posed to a spirit, it will respond in a generalized manner. We know that nothing is more flexible than the faculty of mediumship, for it may appear under the most varied forms and to the most diverse degrees. Thus, one may be a medium without realizing it, or in a different sense than one would expect. To the vague question, am I a medium? The spirit will respond, yes. To the more precise question, am I a writing medium? It might respond, no. One must also take the nature of the spirit being questioned into account. There are spirits who are so frivolous and so ignorant that they respond at random, like true harebrains. That is why we advise addressing enlightened spirits, who usually willingly respond to one's question and point out the best course to follow, if there is to be a possibility of success. I think this final comment is very important. Sometimes in our minds, we go to a group, we join in a mediumship group already knowing what we want to be and not what we have conditions to be. I remember an interview by Ivone Pereira. She was also together with Chico Xavier. She was one of the greatest mediums in terms of, the faculty and the books that she wrote. And in this interview, she said, well, if you show no clear signs of mediumship, not meaning that, we are not mediums, as it's been said before, we are all mediums, but at different degrees. So our perception is actually adjusted to our conditions now. And she said, well, if you tried and you did not succeed, that's because your machine, your physical body, your brain is in no condition at the moment to receive the, how did she put that, to get the experience through mediumship, because it perhaps would disturb you, cause you other things, if you see that, there is no trace of clear manifestation of your faculty. So saying, again, calm, you try, you attempt to see if you can expand your faculty in one direction or another direction. But if it doesn't happen, well, that's because it's not the right moment for it to happen. Otherwise, it would cause you more harm than good. So again, the advice given by Kardec, in the previous paragraph here, it's so important. Become calm and live with the good spirits, actually, because they know exactly what our conditions are, and they bring to us what we can do in terms of the work. And it's not for us to feel that, I'm worth less than those who have clear signs of mediumship in the mediumship group. So, I'll leave the group because, no, everyone is very important there. We don't know the full extent of our presence there. And sometimes it's very important that we remain there, just calm, praying, meditating, in the sense that, Charles explained that, quiet, in silence, to keep, the fluidic environment in balance. So for the mediums to be able to do their work when receiving suffering spirits. This is very important. Okay. No questions? Let me see. Let's move forward then. I think we have time to read one more. I remember taking Guilherme's words. This is a study, so feel free to ask questions, to make comments. And if there are no questions, 1 out of 2. You're either understanding and agreeing with everything, or you're not understanding anything or disagree completely and you don't want to manifest yourself. So, okay. 206 then. An approach that almost always yields good results is the use of a good, flexible, and already developed medium as a temporary aid. If this medium places him or her hands or fingers upon the hand, that is to do the writing, it is rare that it will not begin to move immediately. So this is very interesting. What Kardec is saying here is to induce the first manifestations with the help of an experienced medium. I also want to comment, I mentioned that I joined this youth group, and since day one we were sort of having a moment actually to, let any trace of mediumship that we had to show itself, but we are always under the assistance of well-developed mediums who, were part of the mediumship groups in the Spiritist Center, and very experienced. So this is very important. because sometimes we have to start a mediumship group and we have no one with great experience around us. And that's why Kardec is so careful to give us, the details when we set up a group since the very beginning, since, the moment we are in a group starting, and we don't have these very experienced mediums who could guide us through. But we know, we may find, areas here on the planet where there are mediums, because mediums are everywhere. They are willing to start a mediumship group, but they have no one experienced there with them. But today, thanks goodness, we have the internet. And doing what we are doing here, people from all over the world gather together in a virtual room, discussing and learning. So this is a helpful tool, that has a lot to contribute to the moment that we have now. We may easily understand what occurs in such an instance. The hand holding the pencil becomes a kind of appendage of the medium's own hand, much like a basket or planchette. However, this does not mean the exercise is not very useful when employed, because if it is repeated frequently and regularly, it will help to overcome any physical obstacles and enable the faculty to develop. This is very interesting. We see that it is almost like freeing the hand. This exercise will free the hand of the medium who is developing it, because sometimes the obstacle is actually to begin to move the hand and let the manifestation, finish the link and let it go through. So with this practice, the apprentice starts to feel more confident, and then gets used to the process itself. It's really interesting. But again, it's not the developed medium through his mediumship that is going to pass it to the apprentice. No, it's just a question of training the hand to move, to have the sensation of your hand being moved by another intelligence and being used as an instrument. Okay. It is also sometimes sufficient to intently magnetize the arm and hand of the one who desires to write. Often, all the magnetizer has to do is place his or her hand on the person's shoulder. We have seen individuals immediately begin to write under such influence. The same effects may be obtained without any contact whatsoever and by a simple effort of the will. It is easy to understand that the confidence of the magnetizer in his or her ability to produce such a result must play a large role, and that an incredulous magnetizer will exert a weak influence or none at all. The help of experienced guides is also sometimes very useful to point out a number of small precautions that novices usually neglect, to the detriment of the speed at which they progress. It is especially useful for these guides to inform novices as to the nature of their first questions and the way in which they should be asked. Their role is that of a teacher who is no longer needed when the student becomes sufficiently skillful. Again, I remember that in this youth group I joined when I was young, the person of the medium conducting the group, in charge of the experience, whenever someone started to show signs of a proximity of a spirit and the intention to start a communication, she would go and give healing. to that person. Along the lines that, has been suggested here, through magnetization or, spiritual fluid or whatever, actually to help in the process of, establishing this connection between the medium and the spirit, and helping in the development of the faculty. But it's interesting that it worked. Sometimes the medium was behind the apprentice. The person had his or her eyes closed, sometimes didn't even realize that, the medium was behind him or her, and immediately started to talk or whatever. I remember this young girl, she had a strong manifestation of a Brazilian Indian spirit who was one of the protectors of the Spiritist Center. And she, all of a sudden, she was taken by, and apparently this spirit was a very tall one, and we had the impression that, she was much taller than she used to be, because she was short, and and she used to get into the trance, immediately. Basically, she had some resistance at the beginning, but it was something so overwhelming that with the help, of the medium just giving her healing, she would immediately, finish the connection and give the communication, and it helped with many others. In my case, my mediumship hasn't been very, very clear. I have only traces of it, some intuition every now and then, but I could see people who had it, very well established, very clear signs of the faculty, and the way it manifested. Because, initially, especially when we are young, we are very much shy, and, we don't want to call the attention to us. And so people had this natural resistance to, giving way to the manifestation, but sometimes they couldn't, hold it for any longer when they had this help from, fluids from healing. Okay. Oh, it's time for us to finish. I hope you enjoyed the topic of today. Mediumship is always fascinating. We are always learning. And when we go through the book slowly and allow us time to discuss, to think of questions, and, we learn so much. There are things here that I've read the book, the Medium's book, a few times, but now it gives me the impression that it's a different book, because I have the impression that I'm seeing details now, the small writing that I hadn't noticed before. So next week is going to be the 14th of October. Okay. So, my dear people, thank you very much.
Thank you, Munir.
Let's do a quick prayer, and then time for us to finish.
Thank you, Munir.
Thank you. Let's close our eyes and thank the benefactors for, first, the work of Kardec, the inspiration he received, the mission he accepted, and his legacy. It's so important for us, shedding some light in this dark, stormy night that we are going through, but helping us to get to a safe port, to a safe harbor. And our Master Jesus and the benefactors who in his name come to help and assist us. So, helping us to understand and to observe these teachings, so they become part of us. So be it.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
you
today.
all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see you all
Bye bye.
next week.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Minnie.
Bye bye. God bless.
Bye.
Bye bye.